inner child is on a quest to see alligators in the wild. Hello, my fellow inner creatives. I'm Dawn, and this is Inner Child Creates, where we test the theory that freeing your inner child also frees your creativity, if it doesn't get you killed first. Those of you who saw my last video may remember that I went to the Louisiana swamps in search of adventure, in search of alligators or any kind of animal, whether it be snake or nutria, rodents of unusual size. I was just looking for some adventure, and my inner child decided she really wanted to see some alligators, and we didn't really get to see any. I mean, we saw some, but not up close and personal. They were at a distance, and as soon as we'd get there, they make a quick getaway, and that's fine. I don't believe in manipulating wild animals for a photo op. So it was still good. It was still a wonderful adventure, and I was able to create from it. And if you're curious to see what I created, you can head over to my blog, innerchildcreates.com, which is the companion to this blog. This is the adventure. That is the creativity that came as a result of the inspiration from the adventure. So be sure to check that out. Anyway, my inner child, she still wants to see some alligators. What can you do? So where is better to find alligators than the Louisiana swamp? There's a few options, but we have it figured out, and this is insider information. Only the hippest alligators know this. It's Florida. So we are heading to the Audubon Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary. If you didn't see my last video, you may be wondering, how does finding alligators have anything to do with creativity? Well, don't worry, it's not really about the alligators, it's about conforming to society. Are you still confused? That's okay. If we watch children, we will notice that creativity is usually abundant. We attribute that to childhood imagination. But what if that's really who we are? What if that's our natural state? Until we learn to fit into society. It starts with our parents and our teachers. We pick up little things that chip away at our creativity. We learn to associate feedback. Maybe an adult says something that implies something we care about or something we did was unimportant. Maybe it's as simple as someone rewarding practical behaviors with just a little bit more attention. Maybe it's actually intentional. It doesn't matter. It's different for each of us, but it's also kind of the same. Many of us find ourselves as adults wondering where our creativity went. Maybe we attempted to stay true to ourselves, and maybe we stayed true to a calling that happened to be a form of art. Congratulations, you're an artist. But even the most professional among us have heard years of naysayers. We try to be strong, but then we get writer's block. But then one day the colors don't look right, and so we change them, and then they still don't look right, and we change them again, and they still don't look right, and then we put the paints away. Then you decide to compose something, and you start composing, and then you wonder, have I actually heard this somewhere before? And you know what? It doesn't really matter because it sounds like crap anyway. Then you judge yourself. You judge yourself because you're not producing the way that you should be. Then you feel guilty for not producing, and then you produce even less. Or maybe you took the practical route. You have a stable job, and every now and then you wonder where that creative child that you used to be went. Isn't that funny? I wonder where that went. Well, clearly I'm not creative anymore. But then you see something that pulls at your heartstrings and you miss it. You wonder what could have been. You wonder, what could you have done? What could you do? What if? What if that creative child is still within us? They're buried and you can't talk to them. Is that imagination lost? Well, if you know anything about children, you should know they're not going to come out when you're judging them, you're making them feel guilty, and you're being boring. So maybe you just need to let them play. Listen to them. What is it that they're telling you that they want to do? What would happen if you let them do it? Maybe they would forget for just a moment the restrictions that are keeping them buried. Maybe they would forget all the restrictions for just a moment, and maybe that moment would be long enough to spark imagination. And maybe that imagination could create. I'm here to encourage you to free your inner child. You don't know how to do it? That's okay. I don't either, but I'm trying, and you are invited to come along for the ride. Now, my inner child, she wants to see some alligators in the wild. Hopefully she doesn't get us killed. But we're going to go do it. She's getting impatient. So let's go. My day started by crossing east to west across the southern tip of Florida. My sister had recommended that I stop at Isaac Succulent Farm, then take 41 across to catch the Big Cypress Natural Preserve on my way to the Audubon Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary. She was sure that I'd see some alligators on that route. She was right. I saw a rainbow, an array of beautiful succulents, and alligators. Lots of alligators. All the alligators. The area is full of them. They lounge along the road, they glide in streams, and loiter at the observatory. My inner child got a good dose of alligators right off the bat. American alligators are formidable creatures, although they usually seem pretty calm. They're capable of incredible speed. And weighing in at up to 1,000 pounds and lengths up to 15 feet, they are an animal to be respected. They are also a beautiful and vital part of our ecosystem. During the 20th century, when we were busy doing as much damage to the wildlife as we possibly could, the American alligator was hunted to near extinction. Thankfully, with protection, their numbers have greatly improved. I love that they raise their young and protect their nest, unlike most other reptiles. I learned that courtship lasts 6 to 8 weeks, and it includes snout touching. Are we interrupting something here? My inner child was pretty thrilled to see so many alligators. And if your inner child is looking for some, then the Big Cypress Oasis Ranger Station is definitely the happening spot. You know, the most swankified place in town, the Ozdust ballroom for alligators, as it were. Let me know in the comments if you get that reference. I left the ranger station and headed towards Corkscrew. The rainbow I had seen was miles back, and the sky looked clear for my adventure. One thing to note is that there is literally 2 seasons in Big Cypress, wet and dry. Or is it dry and wet? Little did I know we had just entered the wet season.
I'm getting drenched.
Corkscrew was the name given by early settlers due to the twisting, winding route of the coastal river they traveled up while searching for fresh water. Today, it is known as the Imperial River. The Audubon Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary is a 2.25-mile-long boardwalk exploring 6 native habitats. You can see from this map how that works. Most impressive is that here you will find the largest remaining stand of old-growth cypress forest left in the world. Some trees are 500 to 600 years old. We have to save the swamp 100 times, but we only get to lose it once. If you watched my last video, I talked about the logging that clear-cut thousands of acres of Louisiana's cypress into oblivion, never to be seen again. Maybe you checked out my blog and read Lament for the Cypress. It was my processing of the great loss of this natural wonder. This logging began happening in South Florida around the same time as well. Thankfully, though, concerned citizens and a coalition of organizations, including the National Audubon Society, joined forces to save it. In 1954, the Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary was established with 2,880 acres of cypress swamp.
We are in the pine flatwoods. It just started raining, but I think I'm just gonna let it rain on me. Birds are really active right now. It feels amazing out here. Let's see what else we can find. Check out this guy. And his friend.
Ah, hello, little lizard. Aw, it's a little family. Although I had been seeing the dark clouds moving closer and closer, it was the excitement of the birds that told me the arrival of the rain was imminent. I love the anticipative activity of animals the moment before and moments following a rainstorm. Out in nature, when a storm is coming, it is as if everything becomes electric. The animals sense every wave of energy. In this way, too, storms energize me. When the wind picks up and the air seems to change density, my senses are heightened and I'm in tune with the environment. I feel alive and creative. How exactly this makes me creative, I don't know. I don't know the function. I just know it happens.
I can't even keep my lens dry, sorry. But actually, I like it the best like this. When humans don't like it, there's more animals. It's kind of like turning up the volume on nature. The wet prairie. And today it is wet, finally. When I got here earlier today, it was dry, very dry. It's been kind of a drought, so they really needed this rain. It's still raining. It's all about water. Summer rains fill the wetlands. Many kinds of wildlife depend on wet areas for food and shelter, especially while raising their young. Well, youngins, I hope you're loving this. But my battery's about to die, and I'm gonna have to get my pack out and I don't really want to get everything in my pack wet, so that stinks a little bit. So, my inner child is creating, and I'm thinking about the mystical beast or mystical creature, the magical creature who lives out there. She only walks when it rains. She's like a mermaid. Except she's a mermaid of the forest. So maybe she glides over the ferns. Maybe she skips over the big leaves of the, what did they call them? Alligator tails? Those plants that are really big. I gotta look up the name of my plants, because that's how she gets from place to place. What does she eat? Is she a predator? Ooh. She might be a predator. Maybe I should be careful. I could get out my keyboard and write, since I am in a shelter, but I'm a little worried because you're supposed to be out of here by 3, and I think I'm starting to push that. I'm about halfway on the boardwalk, so I've got at least a mile to go, if not more, and I'm supposed to be out of here, so I don't think I should probably write. I think I should probably go, even though it's raining hard. I mean, I've already been walking in the rain, but I'm kind of getting used to this rain shelter. So the guard to the ancient forest is the century tree, and it stands between the new growth and the old growth. I hear some wildlife. We're in the bald cypress portion of the forest. Some of these are 130 feet tall, 25 foot in diameter. And it is the largest old growth bald cypress forest in the world. Pretty impressive.
They've named some of the oldest, biggest cypress as a way to honor those who have had a special relationship with the trees and land. There is Calusa, named for the native inhabitants of the late Archaic period. This tree hosts an endangered ghost orchid. I'll do my best to pronounce this one. Astianufa is the Seminole name for the big cypress. The Seminole tribe found refuge in the cypress forest during the Seminole Wars. Bald cypress trees like the Astianufa are the largest trees east of the Mississippi. Some of the record-breaking trees are actually multiple trunks that have grown together, but a science article published in 1912 reported the largest known single-trunk bald cypress tree ever found in Florida that measured an astounding 32 feet in circumference. Of course, they cut it down and made boards out of it. The tree here that bears its name has an estimated 32,000 board feet of merchandisable lumber in it. It too would have been lost for mere profit if the Audubon would have failed to stop the axes less than a half-mile south. If you saw my last video, you know I love egrets. Well, here you will learn about the slaughter of hundreds of thousands of egrets and herons whose feathers were prized for their beauty in millinery, i.e., hats. At the time, milliners were paying twice the price of gold for egret plumes. Worse yet, if it could get worse, the hunts took place during mating season when the feathers were at their best and the birds were in their prime. Often, they were shot on the nest. This also left the next generation to starve to death. Thankfully, some individuals and organizations like the Audubon fought to stop this. A tree named after Guy Bradley, a reformed hunter who became the first warden to enforce the bird poaching ban. He was shot at age 35 in the line of duty. Another is named after Rhett Green, a successor warden who also risked his life and camped in the forest during breeding seasons patrolling with his Winchester. It's terrible to hear the young birds calling for food after the old ones have been killed to get the feathers for rich women to wear. I'm not going to have my birds sacrificed in that way. There's Muir, after John Muir, who founded the Sierra Club and convinced Theodore Roosevelt to create both Yosemite and Mariposa Grove National Parks. Everyone needs beauty as well as bread, places to play in and pray in. There's Dutcher, the first Audubon president, Hemingway, a woman who worked from the other side trying to convince women not to wear the feathers, and Baker Curry, an unlikely alliance between Audubon president and logging company president. It takes a lot of people to stand against the interest of money. And the war isn't over. These places are still vulnerable. An ancient forest is defined as a forest that has never been logged. It supports different biodiversity than a young forest. 98% of ancient forests in the United States have been cut down. In the end, we will only conserve what we love. We will only love what we understand. We will only understand what we are taught. Learning is one of the things I live for, and there's a lot to learn here. I learned that bromeliads are in the pineapple family, and they catch water for later use. And those alligator tail plants I mentioned, those are actually alligator flags or fire flags. They grow in the deepest parts of the cypress forest where there's water, so they signal either alligator habitat and or protection from fires. The Seminole and the Miccosukee people wrapped food for cooking in the large leaves and also ate parts of the plant. Lichens are actually two things, algae and fungus. They're in a symbiotic relationship. Their social media status says it's complicated. And if you're wondering what those viney things are, they're strangler figs, which are a tasty food for many creatures, but they will kill the tree over the course of many, many years. But they will make new habitats in the doing so. These seemingly random facts figure into the story of our mythical creature. And now that my inner child has created this frightening, beautiful predator, I find myself looking for her between the trees and around the leaves. Is she stalking me? Is she watching out for me? Did I just glimpse her? Is she over there? What is her name? I see her among the Bromeliads. A couple of exquisite orchids caught my eye, and of course, I stopped to take in their unique beauty. What I didn't see was the elusive ghost orchid. It lives here, it's extremely rare, there's only a couple thousand plants in existence. A very special tree here at the Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary is host to the super ghost orchid, which is one plant known of around the world for being the largest, most prolific, and growing at the highest level of 60 feet off the ground. I wonder if our mythical creature looks for the ghost orchid. Perhaps she protects it? Is she its guardian? I learned that the Florida apple snail, found here, has both lungs and gills, so they're capable of breathing in both air and water. Maybe she is too. I won't say that I'm jealous of a creature that is commonly bird food, but I am always disappointed to realize I'm in a dream when I can breathe underwater.
Okay, it seems like it's letting up a little bit. I'm on my way to the swamp observatory, or the swamp observation deck. I'm not sure what they called it. Anyway, I'm gonna go observe the swamp. I wondered if I should go off track, but I'm just way too stubborn not to. To be honest, I'm getting cold. Can you hear me sloshing? Yeah, that's because there's not anything dry on me, including my shoes. But I am way too stubborn to pass it up. I'm going out to the swamp observation deck. Wow, other than the splaying and the sloshing of my shoes, I can hear so many little creatures out there. Frogs. Some birds, my goodness. This is very active, although I can't see anything. I can hear them. Can you hear them? They are super happy with this rain.
Once the heavy rains had started, I never encountered another person on my entire adventure. But I knew I was running out of time. At this moment, a sanctuary volunteer came through looking for stragglers. That was me, a straggler. We walked and chatted for a bit. We walked and we came upon a unique scene. Hundreds of fish were dead in a shallow area where they had become trapped, and vultures were hard at work on the cleanup. One poor solo egret stood there, hoping for a live fish.
I wonder if they're finding fish that were beached.
It looks like fish, yeah.
Is that dead fish out there? Yes, it is. There's your answer. Look at that.
That egret's standing there like, ew, you guys are gross. I want a live one.
Yeah. I can eat that. Man, oh man. Odoriferous too.
Yes. So I'm almost back. My guide is a little bit wet. Maybe they'll give me a new one. It's a little baby. Hi, buddy. Oh, you're awesome. All right, I made it back to my car, and I'm a little bit drier. They were so sweet. They stayed open long enough to sell me a t-shirt, and of course they gave me a new field guide, but for my t-shirt I got little American alligator babies, which is great because I'm drier and it supports the sanctuary, so it's a win-win. And I have to admit that one of my highlights of the whole thing was the little baby alligator outside the bathroom. He was just sitting there in the walkway, and I thought he was a lawn ornament until he hissed at me because I got too close and I scared him. So he was super cute, about 2 feet long, and definitely was ready to hold his ground. He did not want me too close. And I went in the bathroom, changed into my new t-shirt, and when I came out, the bathroom attendant was in the men's, and he said that just a moment ago he had to kick the baby alligator out of the men's restroom. So poor baby alligator can't catch a break. He's got women coming taking pictures of him, and then people kicking him out of where he wants to be. So, but he was super cute, and it was a good trip. And I actually don't even know how long I have to drive to get to my hotel. I think it's a ways, but it's okay because it was worth it. I'm sitting on a towel. I've got heat in my car. It's all good. But anyway, I am half dry, and that's a wrap on that adventure. It was pretty awesome. So